Okay, so I know Camellya is next patch, but hear me out. You know what time it is. Washed up Wuthering Waves and Gacha veteran Braxophone is about to tell you why you should pull for a meta girl because he hasn't met a girl before. Before the world goes up in flames and Southern California falls into the ocean, let me tell you about this cute anime girl that completely obliterated this child's only reason to live. The child is not a real person, please don't demonetize me. Just over a month ago, this character was revealed on Twitter, and I had two thoughts. The first was, well, that's a stupid name, and the second was, I need her, biblically. But that was before I read her kit, which, if you're not familiar with it, you shouldn't read it, because it takes way too long. But the TLDR is Verena meets Gracio aged up with a little bit of swagger. At the beginning of Wuthering Waves, there was at least 30 videos about how busted Verena was, and now she's one of, if not the most played character in the game due to her heals and team buffs. Source? I don't know, I just made it up. Verena enjoyers are probably skeptical because of how strong Verena actually is, and that's pretty understandable. If you've been gaming with this character that you got for free and didn't have to use event pulls for, why would you want to go spend event pulls on a character that does similar things? And how would some random 5-star character come into the game and instantly dethrone the GOAT of all time? Shorekeeper? I barely know her.
But I have no memory of it.
Okay, so basically, Shorekeeper is, well, imagine Verena, but more heals, more damage, more height, more budget, more horny for Rover, more buffs, more grouping, more iframes, and most importantly, more horny for Rover. Usually, I avoid British people, because my American ancestors spent years trying to liberate themselves, and I don't want their sacrifices to be in vain. But Shorekeeper is kinda hot, so we make an exception. That and, well, whether or not my ancestors were actually great people is up for debate. Okay, wait, I was kinda lost in the sauce there for a second. My point is, you don't want to skip Shorekeeper. But why? Well, to answer that, you'll have to understand what Shorekeeper actually does that makes her such an insanely powerful character. Shorekeeper is a Spectro support character that supports your team by prescribing illegal steroids. She has a basic attack sequence that can be replaced partially by her abilities, and she can deal damage while on or off the field. Her skill heals allies and spawns and butterflies with the insatiable urge to kill, and they're very pretty. With her Forte circuit, she can do damage, pull in enemies, or damage. And that enemy pull is pretty dang nice for when you want a bunch of idiots to breathe the same air, and then die. Not to mention her animations are genuinely some of the best looking so far. I don't think they've missed yet for a limited character design, and Shorekeeper is further proof of that. Alternative title for this video: Brax thinks Kuro Games has a praise kink, but they actually have a thing for exposed backs. When you use Shorekeeper's Resonance Liberation, she makes your bad echo rolls less relevant and gives you free crit rate for doing an intro skill. On the second intro skill after her ultimate, she begins to also give crit damage. Oh, and I forgot to mention, she's healing the entire time. While Verena has an attack buff for your team with her outro skill, Shorekeeper has a crit rate and damage buff for your characters in the order they swap in. And on top of that, Shorekeeper gives 15% damage amp and a special ability that's essentially an extended warranty on your, severe fragility. If you get hit any time within 30 seconds of Shorekeeper's outro skill, you can just say, nuh-uh, hit your dodge button, and instantly dodge or recover from the blunt force trauma that knocked Chengli up in the first place. Then, when it's Shorekeeper's turn, she, breaks the fourth wall. Imagine my reaction when I triggered her level 3 intro skill and thought that I had walked into Wuthering Waves' first unskippable cutscene. Shorekeeper also has a passive that can prevent a character death by yoinking her HP. Not that anyone's going to die in the first place in Wuthering Waves, but just in case an anvil falls from the sky, you're basically chillin'. She gets a passive 10% energy regen when other characters are in range of her ultimate, and if you're playing her with Rover, Rover also gets 10% more energy regen, which is a pretty nice bonus to have. Everything in this character's kit heals, and she gives out the most insane buffs in the game. All of the buffs that Verena gets from her healing echo set and her main echo, Shorekeeper can get as well. So all in all, it ends up being completely free damage amplify, crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, off-field damage, and heals. And you can finally play a character in every team that's not a child. Every 5-star queen has her cheap free-to-play copy. But if you can get results with them, it doesn't really matter. So why would you play Shorekeeper when you could play Verena? Why would you spend pulls on a limited 5-star when you already have the regular 5-star that does almost the same thing? Why do they call it oven when you oven the cold food of out hot eat the food? perchance.
I want to understand.
TLDR of this video is Shorekeeper is very, very broken. If you want to have an easy time with a video game weathering waves, then Shorekeeper is kind of a no-brainer. Because if you had undisclosed win character from redacted game, you would still want 5-star undisclosed win character from redacted game. Your echoes are terrible, and I cannot help you, but Shorekeeper can. The value a character brings when they take away your reliance on echo luck is absurd. I see that's not enough to convince Camellya savers. You know what, guys? I actually understand. I too am a deranged maniac who wishes to sow the seeds of destruction all for a tiny girl who smiled at me in a gacha game cutscene. But now I want you to imagine, just for a brief moment, humor me.
Here we go again.
Imagine that all is right with the world. People are free to do what they want without negatively impacting others. Nobody is sick, and yet there's no overpopulation issues. Everyone has food, water, and other resources, and life is generally good. This is what life would be like if you got therapy. Camellya, more like Camellya. Get it? Because she smells like credit card debt? I could list 100 reasons why you should skip that unit, but the reason I won't is because I'm not skipping that unit. But you know who else I'm not skipping? Shorekeeper. Because after she released, Baiji was found dead in a ditch. Now, when you head into Tower of Adversity, you not only have an upgrade to every Varina team, you also have 2 Varina teams. One of the biggest issues for players in Weathering Waves was the lack of access to viable DPS and supports for endgame content, because the game was new and people only want to play who they last looked up on R34. Now that there's new characters on the roster, we're starting to see a ton more viable teams, units, and endgame use cases. Finally, we have another Varina, and finally you have a staple character that will be used in every team until the end of time or until they release Varina 3. Ganyu at home by definition is the most flexible limited 5-star so far. Scissor Kit works exceedingly well with every character in the game. Unlike other gachas, every character in Weathering Waves is dishing out some semblance of damage, and all of them can benefit from critting those hits, which means all of Shorekeeper's buffs work universally well. She's a super easy to build character as well since she's a support. You really only need to find a healing bonus 4 cost, an energy regen 3 cost, and an HP 1 cost. I say and, but you want maximum out of all of them. And substats just don't really matter for her that much. I mean, they do kinda, but not a lot. The healing bonus set brings so much value to your team that it's a no-brainer, and for weapons, the only weapon that stands out as ridiculously good is Variation, which is a 4-star weapon, unless you're getting her signature. And surprise, you can actually give her Varina's weapon when you switch sides on the tower. Oh, by the way, if you didn't know, you can actually switch weapons on characters between tower runs. It's really easy to look at your account and go, oh, I don't really need this character because I have this other one that does something similar. But when it comes to game modes where your character usage is limited and you need multiple teams, having that upgraded version is a huge deal. One constant with the more popular gacha games is that investing in powerful supports will completely alter the trajectory of your account, since DPS can be replaceable depending on the type of content, but good all-rounder supports will be functional in all types of content, regardless of the DPS you take most of the time. It's the same reason everyone was spamming pick this 5-star videos and saying to take Varina, and I don't know anyone that regrets getting Varina other than people who hate children in gacha games, and you know what, I agree. Just another reason to pull for Shorekeeper. Listen, surely you guys have saved up enough pulls since Shengli to grab Shorekeeper and Camellya, right? Anyways, TLDR a second time. Shorekeeper is fucking busted, and you should pull for her, and if you're saving for Camellya, you should seek God or therapy. Before you do that though, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more mentally ill content.